Welcome to American Wrench Pullers. On any given weekend all across Minnesota, and for that matter, all across the nation, street riders are gathering with their friends and family members to share their cars with others. In fact, Minnesota has one of the largest state street riding associations in the country called MSRA, which hosts an annual car show at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds each year. MSRA's strength comes from all the smaller car club members throughout the state, of which central Minnesota has a particularly active schedule of street riding events. They also call these rod runs. I decided to take a closer look at a typical summer of car events in central Minnesota, including the towns such as Mirfield, Garrison, and Brainerd. Since this story is designed for the internet, we will be able to take a longer look at some of the activities and cars than a traditional TV show. Just so you know, there will be more interviews and more cars at my website, AmericanWrenchPullers.com. Oddly enough, we are going to see how giraffes and street riders come together this summer. Now let's start with talking to Ron Matich, who is a founding member of one of the street rod clubs called the Street Merchants.
Ronald Matich, founding member of the Street Merchants Auto Club. Well, it was like 1971 is when we started. It started with two other gentlemen. One was Robbie McCullough. At the time, his father had the Brainerd Dispatch as part of the McCullough family there. And the other one was, his name was Lenny Wadan. And the three of us decided to start an auto club here in Brainerd and Baxter. Well, we were all part of that young group that ran around town, that we built cars for a hobby, even high school, even my father, he was always doing mechanic work. He had his trucking firm, and so we learned at a young age, in fact all three of us, to work on cars and to rebuild, and always had a real pleasure in taking something that was not running and maybe not looking quite as nice and getting it on the road again and painting it and fixing them up. And then we all had a little taste of drag racing, so we were into the muscle cars. I was a real Mopar nut. I had a 69 Roadrunner that we run at that time. Lenny Wadan had a 65 Chevelle, and Robbie McCullough, he had a 1970 Chevelle. And then there was a group of us, as in the picture, there's a Subner Morehouse. He was a parts man for Woods Motor. Woods Motor was the Dodge and Chrysler dealership in Brainerd at the time. And like I say, we're talking 1971, 72, 73, 74 years, 1974. And there was a gentleman, his name was Mike, and he was a real large gentleman. He was a salesman for Woods Motors, and his nickname was Big Drag. And we used to give him a hard time because he was a very large man. We told him his cars could go a lot faster if he let somebody else drive them. That was kind of the joke. But that was the people. Larry Roller was another member that came on, and Sub Morehouse in Big Drag and Larry Roller. They came in later, like 1974, and that's when this photograph came in. We got a charter from the Brainerd mayor and the fathers, and then we promoted safe driving. Even though we loved the drag race and things like that, we did promote safe driving with the highway patrolmen, and the sheriff's department. We tried to keep the racing on at the time it wasn't BIR. At the time we were talking at, like, Donnybrook was the name of the drag strip out here. And it came back. Dick Rowe then was one of the main purchasers of the track after Donnybrook went defunct. And so we worked out at the track. The Auto Club, through the years, that's how we got our funding, was working at the Brainerd International Raceway and taking care of all the ticketing and entry for many, many years, probably 20, 25 years. We worked with Dick Rowe out at BIR. And that's where we got all our funding. And at that time, it was real lucrative for us to, and it was all of the stuff that we wanted to do. I mean, we had Dick seen that we had a suite up in the tower, and so the Auto Club was all right mixed in with what we like to do, and that was drag racing. So yeah, we enjoyed that immensely. We put on an auto show. I would say we pretty much started that probably in the early 80s. We started at in fact, yeah, it was early 80s. We started at the Armory in Brainerd, the old Armory. We had to build some specialized ramps because to get up into the main area in the Armory, the cars were so low, the street rods and everything that we got in there, that we had to build some long ramps to sneak them up in the building. And we had quite a few shows. It was inexpensive, so it was inexpensive for the spectators, and it was just a fun time. The car show that we put on is put on mainly, you know, we want to recognize and we want to give the opportunity for not us as a car club to vote on the car. What we do is we give the opportunity for, first of all, the participants, the people that bring the cars in. They know a little more in depth on what is there, what has been done to that car, because they do it themselves. And so we give them an opportunity to vote for one car. And in this particular, we call it a show and shine, is what we call that car show. And then also we give the spectators an opportunity to pick out a car. And then we have a third trophy, and that's a special interest. It might not be a car, it might be a tractor, it might be a motorcycle, it might be anything. We had even a custom manure spreader one year, but it was beautiful. I mean, the guy totally rebuilt this manure spreader right from the ground up. But I mean, that just shows the interest in people and the different interests that people have. And we just give that as a token to, you know, just to recognize that people went out of their way to bring a car there, and we want to recognize a little bit, but we don't want to make a big deal of the trophies, because the thing is, it's a little bit of competition, but it's not a huge competitive thing. It's a get-together. It's a community get-together. When you were out at that show, you notice just the the amount of people coming and going is constant, and they come back again, even the same evening. They'll drive out and come in, and we don't lock the cars in for the show. I mean, you can drive in, you can register, and if you want to take off for a little bit, you can take off and you can come back again. It's kind of a real, and that's why we call it a show and shine. It's a real laid-back, relaxed evening to where everybody can get together and just enjoy automobiles and camaraderie, and it's just a nice evening.
advertise it and take our money.
You should.
And now for something completely different. The dance troupe that stole the show at the Garrison Car Show. Up next is Bruce Payne's Secret Super Garage Tour.
Well, I'm Bruce Payne. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I didn't know exactly what to expect from the Bemidji crew, and it was their mystery run. They didn't even know where they were going today, I guess. Yeah, we've had them a few different times. It's kind of a fun thing between different car clubs to do the garage tours and see what other people are doing in their shops. And
well, let's take a peek around before the day goes by too far.
all right,
thanks so much, Bruce.
you bet. You guys help yourself. You can ask me or Bill questions.
Here.
That Packard I bought as an estate sale a few years ago.
I love this girl. That's me. You have me in here. This is me.
This is you.
Look at right here.
Aha. When you were young and trim, there you go. There you go.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, this is still original interior. This is original paint. Yeah. And it runs down the road pretty nice. Yeah, you bet. The story was that there's some body work and whatnot been done on the front fender. Supposedly that was involved in some kind of a bank robbery and laid it on its side many years ago. But yeah, it was just, couldn't have been better. Yeah. Good turnout. Yeah. We thought we had a lot more. I think we had more campers there, but we were within one registration of what we were the year before. Yeah, I love that DeSoto and that here. Look at the dash on this one. The blood bases. The dash is just beautiful. 15 Dodge, first year in Dodge. Yeah. And it,
All us ladies want to know, there's buttons along the windows. You know, like they look like they're window switches.
yeah.
There's cranks too.
too. The crank is for the vent window on the side.
Now let's take a walk about to the Muirfield Car Show and enjoy the sights. Next up, another walkabout through a rod run, this time at Garrison, Minnesota.
In the back of your mind is a movie, running and rewind, and you watch your memories fall all around you when your world was small. Now you're lost and all alone in the new town, living on your own, and you watch the shadows fall all around you, and your room's getting small. Every day's a new day with a brand new start. Nothing wants to come up from the bottom of your heart. Just remember, it's the same old moon in the window, and the same old star above. You know just where your home is. You know just who you love.
We just can't get enough of the dance troupe that showed up at Garrison to steal the show.
Funniest sound I ever heard. And I can't understand a single word. But is he serious or is he playing? Oh, mama, is all he saying, mama.
Now it is time to experience what is at the core of street riding, riding in a souped-up rod. Buckle up and hang on your hats as we go for a ride with Steve Heide in his muscle Ford truck.
This whole digital readout here gives you all the diagnostics of the whole vehicle. Gives you air, fuel, when the green lights on the O2 sensors working. And when the other green light is on for the learning, it's in the process of regulating the fuel. It gives your fuel pressure, your battery, your ignition timing, RPM, throttle position, the amount of throttle, or the position your throttle's in, whether it's quarter throttle, half throttle, or whatever it would be. This is actually the computer, and each one of these represented an injector firing. That is getting the crank signal, your power, your switch.
That's fun.
It's got good power. It's a relatively light truck with a lot of low-end torque. A lot of traffic this time of the day.
What year was this truck again?
It's a 56 F100. It's a cab with the big back window. They make two versions, one with a small back window and one with a big back window. Big back window cabs are a little more desirable.
Did you have any particular reason you chose this truck?
Well, biggest reason, my dad, not this particular truck, but the first new truck that he ever owned was a 56 F100. That's the biggest reason. Might be better if I roll this window up. Motor is a stroke 460. It's a 523 cubic inch, makes 620 horse, about 650 foot-pounds of torque, 2,500 RPM.
Have you ever raced it?
I ran it at BIR once. It runs at mid-12s. It's geared for the street. It's got a 350 gear. Capable of a lot more, but I like to drive them, so it's still something that's drivable on the street. It'll run 65 miles an hour, and that's just over 2,000 RPM.
So that means what to the average person? 2,000 RPM, it's low?
That's low. A lot of your newer vehicles with the overdrive and 5 and 6 speed transmissions are running 1,800 RPM. This at 2,500 is pretty much in your power curve. Truck has 4-wheel disc brakes, got a Lincoln Versailles rear end. I guess we'll have to go around this way. There's traffic here.
So tell me again, what will the lights tell you if they're not working right, or does it?
Pardon me?
These lights here, they'll tell you what if it's going bad or good, or?
No, this is telling you that each one of these lights, when they flicker, the injector is giving it a shot of fuel. This system is capable of supporting 1,200 horse. So it has 4 injectors in the throttle body. So each one of those lights, when they flash, is giving that engine a shot of fuel. This is the point setup is showing your ignition power, your switch on, the ECU power, and then the blue light is the crank trigger showing the RPM. But this system, with a handheld, I can actually change the ignition timing right from the driver's seat. It's constantly monitoring the fuel. You see where the learn cycle was on, now it's flickering off. What that's doing is adjusting the fuel rate, trying to get that perfect, well, this on the dyno made the best power at 13.5 fuel-air ratio. So the computer's constantly trying to monitor the air-fuel mixture to keep it at that particular fuel rate. Not an economy car by any means. I don't know. I've never checked it. Okay. I'm guessing it's somewhere around 9 or 10 miles per gallon.
Does this make you feel connected with your dad a little bit?
Well, it kind of, I don't know, I guess it probably does a little bit.
Yeah, how long has your dad been gone?
10 years. I didn't have the truck when he was here. He had dementia and Alzheimer's, so I'm sure he wouldn't have known anywhere what the truck was or what the whole reason for getting it would have been.
Sure he would have loved it though.
I'm sure he would have.
Was he a street rider too?
No. It was just transportation for him. I built all the exhaust. It's all stainless. I built the mufflers. They're all out of stainless. Built the fuel tank. That's all out of stainless. You can tell by the rumble it doesn't quiet them down much, but it's all 3-inch exhaust. It's all exhaust that I built.
It took to the end of a busy street rod season, but I was finally able to find time in his schedule to interview him, who many call the godfather of street riding in central Minnesota, Merle Gallant. Yep, you guessed it. I found him in his garage working on yet another car project.
Our local club, Northern Tin, rather large club. We've got approximately just short of 100 couples in our club, which is fairly large for a local club. We're a somewhat social club. We spend more time going out to eat than we do going to car shows and such. We do that weekly. The club goes back, I believe it's early 80s is when we were formed. I was part of that. I wasn't the one that put it together. And it's a family club. Everybody's welcome. You don't have to have a car to join. It's just the interest and the common interest in the vehicles and the shows and swap meets and so forth. We basically have a pretty good time. 2017, well, not just 2017, but we generally start out in the spring. We have a car club potluck and car show in our yard. And we'll end up with, generally get about 50 people, so nobody goes away hungry. Everybody's encouraged to bring their cars, and we park them around the yard and just generally sit around for a day and tell stories and so forth. From there, usually about the next day after that is the first big spring swap meet, Buick swap meet down in the Twin Cities. which we never miss. There'll be a group of us go down there either just to look or possibly to try to get rid of some accumulated leftover parts or stuff we need, of course. Probably one of the bigger events coming into June, back to the 50s, is the biggest event down at the State Fairgrounds. That's hosted by the Minnesota Street Rod Association, and it's a totally volunteer put-on event. Generally, the last few years, the car numbers are right on approximately 11,000 cars, all 1964 and older, and we take up the full State Fairgrounds for about 4 days. A little further into the summer, there's a group of us go into Iola Swap Meet over in Wisconsin, both Iola and Jefferson, Wisconsin. These are huge meets with in the neighborhood of 2,500 vendors. You can't walk it in 2 days. It's just crazy. But you always find some needed parts.
You need everything, right?
Yes, yeah. And some of the other car shows, local shows, Garrison, Merrifield, Breezy Point, up at their airstrip up there. I haven't made that show yet. I'm going to try that this next spring. That's a show that's put on in May, both fly-in and car show. So there's both aircraft and cars. Aiken Show likewise is a fly-in. Generally they've got 1 or 2 planes there you can rent rides in, be it a bi-wing plane or whatever. On through the summer, St. Cloud is always a very large car show swap meet. Little Falls is one of the later ones in the fall. And weekly, downtown Advance Auto parking lot every Friday night, weather permitting. As soon as the weather starts warming up, there'll be cars down there, and just for an evening of standing around and watching cars and telling stories and watching whatever. Some nights we'll have 6 cars, some nights we got 30 cars down there, right next to the water tower. Oh yes, another one that I didn't mention is the Mills Motor parking lot. They host a couple shows every summer. The Body Works show, 4th of July weekend, is always a big one. It's the same weekend as Show and Go at BIR. That's another activity a lot of our members attend, our Wednesday night drags at BIR. It's a $5 to get in deal, and you can go for 4 or 5 hours, sit and watch whatever run out there. You can go out and run your car if it passes tech and get a lot of local participation in that. MSRA Fall Campout, Northern Tin has hosted that multiple times. I would say we've done it probably 5 or 6 times going back into the 80s. The last 2 years we hosted it in Brainerd at the Crow Wing County Fairgrounds. It's a large event in the neighborhood of 800 people. We generally feed that many. Minnesota Street Rod Association pays the bills on it, and there's always a local club hosts it. It moves around the state every 2 years. This coming year now, 18 and 19, it'll be up in Grand Rapids. So we'll have another place to take off for a weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday event basically, with a few people showing up Thursday. The avid campers. It of course started out, and it's called a camp out, but the numbers of people that are camping has kind of dropped off, and it's more a lot of moteling and driving in for the day. But anyway, Friday is just kind of a get registered and show up. They do a Friday evening meal with participants. Saturday is the busy day. We'll start out with a Saturday morning car show in Gregory Park, the way we've hosted it anyway. Show and Shine, which is basically a no trophy show. It's just a show up and sit around and show your car off. The local club, if they so choose, provide trophies. After that, that'll run till about noon, and the afternoon is a little bit, it's not really structured, but we'll have a lot of activities from setting up garage tours locally to, so you can go out and take a look at local projects. We'll have maybe this past year we used Pirates Cove mini golf. You can go out there and mini golf a game or two. You can go out to the zoo south of town. I can't think of the name right off now. Safari North, yes. Very interesting place to go through. People just love that. And then we had we call a mystery run. You'll get a instruction sheet and you've got to make maybe 80 miles or so. If you do the whole run, you'll have points of interest to stop at. You'll have stuff to identify along the route. Various car parts that may be at an eating place that you have to stop and attempt to identify. And then when that's over with in the evening, we announce winners and such. We'll generally have a dance. This past year now, we did it both Friday and Saturday nights with Jack Franzine and his family band, which was real well received. So that goes fairly late Saturday night, along with a full catered meal at the fairgrounds. We use the curling club to host that. Like I say, we had in the neighborhood 800 people for that dinner. Sunday morning is just kind of a wind down and everybody's moving out. Usually it's kind of wrapped up by noon. After fall camp out, there's one or two more large swap meets in the Twin Cities. Twin Cities Roadsters swap meet at the fairgrounds, which is kind of an end of the year event. Everybody's trying to get rid of things because they don't want to store it for the winter, so you can generally get some good buys at that one. Well, as far as definition, according to, say for instance, Minnesota Street Rod Association, the street rod designation is basically 1948 and older cars. 49 was kind of a changing point for vehicles where they went from vehicles with separate fenders per se. 49, 50, Ford, GM, so forth went to a smoother body, a whole different type of car. MSRA, for instance, the 49 to 64 is as new as you can get into the back to the 50s with. That's kind of their cutoff. But again, even MSRA doesn't have a requirement that you have to have a vehicle or a specific year vehicle to join. You can attend, other than back to the 50s, you can attend most all of their events with your daily driver if you so choose. I guess I'm a big proponent of MSRA because it's the stuff that they do. You attend one or two of their events and you've got your membership money back for the year. MSRA is a group that's, the membership numbers right now I believe are up in the 20,000s. I've been in it since 1968. I'm 113 is my membership number. So you get to recognize a lot of people. I don't necessarily know everybody by name, but it's an organization unlike any other. Well, just for instance, we've got they call it a who you gonna call list in MSRA. If you're stranded in Pine Center, Minnesota, well, there'll be a list, not necessarily somebody in Pine Center, but somebody close you can call and they'll come and give you a hand. Or I've had people call me that are looking at a car to buy. Say there's a local guy who's got a Model A Roadster that he's advertising and he wants a second set of eyes to just give him an opinion on what it looks like, and it's handy. Pretty close-knit group. Yes, the fall camp out trophies the last 2 years Both my brother Bill and 2 or 3 people from the Aiken area, which are in our club, also did a lot of work on the trophies, but they were abstract trophies made out of automotive parts, some wooden stuff, whatever, and they're generally very well received. We even had one of the guys in our club is quite an accomplished artist. He did some prints, drew up the prints, and some of the awards were his prints, which were, he also comes from an automotive family up in Pine River area. My youngest brother Bill, he's more into the rat rod end of the hobby, which is a whole nother, it's a whole nother group of people, a whole, I don't know what you would call an organization, but it's gotten a whole nother group of people involved in the street rod hobby. They're generally either unpainted cars or cars that have the original paint and some patina to them. They're assembled from whatever type of parts. You can build one a lot cheaper. You don't have to look at spending $10,000 on paint and body work, which is the bottom end of getting a car painted now. But again, it's gotten a whole nother group of people involved in the hobby. My brother Bill's car, he drives daily. It's on a 4-wheel drive chassis. It gets looks wherever he goes. Again, it's a dependable vehicle. It's unpainted and it's got a lot of artistic touches. I mean, his artistry in the thing is just unbelievable. And there's some shows that's the whole focus of the show is that type of vehicle. Yeah, I probably do a lot more than some other people do. My wife generally knows where I'm at. If I'm not in the garage, I'm out getting parts or at a swap meet or a show or at a buddy's house helping them. Or
Big thanks to Merle for reviewing this season's Street Rod events. Now let's take a stroll through the fall campout in Brainerd, which was Merle's proud achievement in heading up the plans for this year's campout, also sponsored by MSRA. We will see cars moving around the fairgrounds, people dancing to the band, the award ceremony, bonfires, people gathering, and little kids enjoying painting a real car as the evening sets in.
Sometime I'm called Happy Harry. Sometime I'm Happy Hour Harry. But tonight, I'm Hot Rod Harry. Back to the 50s, here we go. Okay? I want to thank MSRA for all of their support, for all they've done, and I want to thank all the Northern Tin people, because without you guys, this wouldn't have have happened. So all thanks goes out to Merle, our president, and everybody involved.
So far, so good? Okay, we got a bunch of handmade trophies up here. Everybody hear me okay? We did some picks today. No particular criteria. We just liked them. Okay, for best, what we're going to do is I call names or whatever, you just come up and pick out a trophy. Best pickup. It's a 57 Chev, Ken Boyum. Ben? Your choice. Someone will bite your fingers.
Yeah, probably.
Time for another walkabout. This is the Fall Camp Out Car Show, sponsored by MSRA in Brainerd, Minnesota.
Oh no! All right, nice.
Street riders come from all walks of life and have many interests beyond cars. Therefore, the Big Fall Campout was able to send whole families to many different events beyond car shows, spread all throughout Brainerd, as we can see.
Hello there, everybody.
Oh, that is so cute. I'm surprised that one didn't hit.
Sadly, another summer of street riding came to an end with the Great Fall Campout. But now, at least you know how street riders in Grass got together. I personally made many friends in all the local car clubs, many who were not even featured in the story. So find yourself a local car club, get involved, and make some friends. It's a great way to spend lazy weekend days of summer.